Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm visiting Mammoth, Utah. It's not quite a ghost town, but it's certainly diminished from its heyday, which was about 130 years ago now. And so I've been visiting this town since about 2008, and even since then the town has changed a lot. In fact, I'd say it's even grown. So let's take a look at what's left of the town and kind of explore where things were when the town when it was in its heyday. So this is the main body of the town. And in fact, this part down here was called Robinson. And up here, behind these trees, was called Mammoth. So down here in the bottom of the valley was some mills. So just down right there was, I think, the Sioux Mill. And then there was another one further down. And they were mills for the mines that were up here, the Mammoth mines up there. All throughout here were homes. There's a lot more homes through here and in here. And I'll show you some pictures of what that looked like. There was a big hotel right down here. And then there was a store and LDS church right there. And so for a mining town, it was unique in that it had a fair size Mormon population. But there was also hotels and saloons, and in the early part of the 1900s, even a movie theater. So let's see if we can find those sites. So here's the remnants of a building, possibly a home. It's kind of a hodgepodge now, but what's unique is off the back end there, you've got that little cutout there with the faux stained glass windows. And you can see these trees were planted when people actually, really well and truly lived here. It was a real going concern. The foundations of the LDS church there, and that store, you can see with the shiny new tin roofing, it looks like some of the foundation walls have been repurposed into something new, whether that's a house or a shed, I don't know. As more people have moved into Utah, these kinds of places have become more interesting and even more viable for people to live. The problem out here is, though, that there's no water. So you've got to bring in your own water here. What water there is/was used for the mines. And so again, down beyond this tree, which the tree wasn't there, but this was Robinson, Lower Mammoth. And then up here was Mammoth, or Upper Mammoth. And there was quite a few people that lived just up in this little top of the canyon here. Way more than you might guess just looking at it today. And as I understand it, you can see there's a mine entrance up there. That's all still under lease, still being actively used. So can't just go up there. I think this is kind of a neat little spot because you've got this bush, which clearly is not native to this landscape. But then on closer inspection, you've got a hole, which is obviously a foundation hole of a house. And so you can get a good sense of how big these homes were dealing with here. I mean, that's probably only maybe 15 feet from this point up to that point there. And then from the bush down till about here or so. So maybe 15 by 20-ish. So definitely not very big, but when you were living out here and your life was just about mining, pretty much, you didn't spend a ton of time at home usually. If you weren't working, you were out doing something else, socializing. I mean, dances, saloons, all of those were big things back in the day that we don't do anymore. We spend a lot more time at home. So I'm standing pretty much slap bang in the middle of Mammoth / Robinson. Up there you've got the Mammoth mine. You can see there's another mine over here. And all throughout this area you can see traces of railroad terracing, railroad grade terracing. So you had the ore would come out of the mines and then be transported along the hillside. And if you look right about in the middle of the hill, you can see a road or a road grade. That was for rail cars, and they would come over here. Now you see these terraces right there. That was from the Sioux mine, I believe. The Sioux mill, if I'm remembering correctly. And so you can see how the mill was terraced. So they would dump the mill at the top, and then they would use gravity to help transport the ore down through the mill as it was processed. And all through this area were terraces for roads, railroad cars, and then down here at the bottom of town, like I said earlier, there was another mill, and then the railroad cars would transport them out into the valley. And you can see just in the distance there's some railroad cars on part of the old railroad grade. So now I'm going to give you a little tour of the history of this intersection, which is pretty cool. So we're going to look at it from about 1898 until 1917. So right behind the car there is that stone monument. That is a monument to the Tintic Hospital. It first was the Kilmeade Hotel, later became the Tintic Hospital. And then over on this side of the road, there were a couple of saloons. So right here, we had a billiard hall. And then just down the road here, we had 2 saloons. And then across the way, there was a conveniently located livery stable just over here. And for a brief period of time here on this corner was a small mercantile store. And then walking up the road here, where this trailer and property is now, was a couple of homes. Now the lots are narrow. This here represents what I believe is two lots. And then up here, just beyond the trailer, is what's really cool. Now, if we were standing here in 1896, we would see a picket fence running up through here, be some trees, and a little garden area. And then right where this plateau is was the Mammoth Hotel. And here's the foundation ruins of the hotel. And we can get a really good idea of the shape of it just from the ruin. So this was the entrance. And over here we can see it kind of bulges out in the ground there. And that was for like a half turret tower thing. What was cool about this hotel was it offered some modern amenities for its time. So we can see there was a wall here, and right where that big metal chunk is where the steam boiler was. So you had hot and cold running water in here in the 1890s. Now, right above where the steam boiler was, this was the kitchen area. And up above, this was a 2-story hotel. These were rooms, of course. And over here was an open area of the hotel. Based on the plans, I assume this was like a screened-in area to take advantage of cooler evenings. Of course, over here was the office area. But yeah, this was the Mammoth Hotel. And now just to the east from the Mammoth Hotel there, this was where the movie theater was in 1917. So if you wanted to come and see a silent picture, probably accompanied by a piano, you would have come to this spot. It was a simple false front long building. And so I haven't found any pictures of what it looked like on the inside, but it really would have been something. I wonder if you happened to be walking by when there was a film playing, if you could hear the piano. So moving on from Mammoth, I've come over the hill just a few miles to what was Silver City, and I'll give you a panorama shot. It is kind of amazing at what isn't here if you look at a picture of what was here. Take a look. So down there in the center of the screen where that little grove of trees is, that is the cemetery of the former town here, Silver City. It was a mining and milling town. Now we're panning into what was the original town site. Now here in the middle of the screen was full of homes and businesses. There was a big two-story school here as well. Over here on the left side there was the mill, and I think there was a mine, just a little tiny mine just further up the hill there. But I'll show you a picture here of what it looked like at the turn of the 20th century, and looking at it now, it's just amazing at what isn't here anymore. So we just come from the hilltop over there, then we're down here where some industrial remnants. It's big, barely hanging on beam there. Got a holding tank of some kind where there was a ladder, so certainly went down there. Hold the camera out, I certainly don't want to fall down. But I don't exactly know what this is right at this minute. But it was certainly part of a bigger industrial complex, because down there you can just see tip of the sagebrush, there's another concrete sort of pylon, and then all through here is dug out. So it's had some industrial purpose related to mining or milling. Here we've got a little shack next to a tree that was almost certainly planted by a person who lived here over 100 years ago. It's like someone at some point has insulated it. Used it to hold bags of cement that are rotten. Looks like they painted it blue. Some kind of hole out back. See the foundations of another home or something here. And a lot of rock foundations here. This looks like a wall. We even have some concrete. So, okay, looking at this, we've got the wall that returns over here. This might have been kind of a cellar slash basement or something like that. And then it could have come out over here as well. So we have another stacked stone wall there. Got a tough shed there. And then someone's little mining operation right there. And up the little canyon there is another little mining operation going. You can see a track hoe up on top. Just walking back out, took another look at this wall, and I just love how clear the line is. It's such a neat line. Got the left side and the right side, and it's a thick wall. This was a hefty building at one point. So I've left Silver City and I've driven through Eureka, and now I'm up close to where the town of Knightsvillle once was. And what's interesting about this location is it was founded by Jesse Knight, who was called the Mormon Mining Wizard, because every sort of mining project he touched seemed to work out for him. And so up here, it was said that he did a survey, like, oh, maybe I'll sink a mine up here, and the engineer said, no, there's no point. There's nothing up here. You're gonna get nothing. You're gonna waste money. And so he said, get stuffed, sunk a mine shaft up here, and it ended up being very, very wealthy. Made him very rich. And so there's a ghost town up here. Very little is left except some foundations. But I've come across something trying to get to the schoolhouse or the schoolhouse foundations that I've never seen before. So you got to check this. This, whoever owns the property that Knightsville was once on has taken the word ghost town quite literally. So it's kind of fun. Got all kinds of skeletons doing crazy things. Looks like you got the this fella means business with his Chinese something machine gun. If you want to check out the schoolhouse, here's your clue. Oh, there goes a lizard. They've got real plants, real irises up here. So they were celebrating Mardi Gras. Went all in for Mardi Gras, apparently. Just the number of beads is crazy. But kind of fun. Not ever seen anything like this before. And we're really not too far from Eureka at all. It is just down over the little hill there. One of the interesting things about Knightsville is that Jesse Knight was a Mormon, and he didn't want his miners working on Sunday. But that meant for the miners that they would lose a day of pay. So what Jesse Knight did is he increased the pay of the miners, and so they were making the same wages as miners down in Eureka, but they were also able to take Sundays off. It was also a dry town, so there was no alcohol. Well, there was no like saloons, you know, and boozing involved. If miners wanted to go have a drink, they would have to go down the mountain into Eureka. So that's one cool fact about the old town of Knightsville. Oh, you can see the foundation of the schoolhouse from up here. Let me zoom in on it. There it is, right in the middle of the screen. Yeah, that's worth having a closer look. I'll have to email the landowner. Well, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. I know it was just kind of a random thrown together bit of video, but I had a good time making it, and I hope you had a good time watching it. And so I hope to do one of these again soon. See you in the next one. Bye.